Hi, this is Monica Alford with Wildside Media. I am super excited to be back in Legacy Sessions today. We are speaking with Donja R. Love, who is the playwright behind What Will Happen to All That Beauty, which is not a play, it is an offering. And this will be debuted at the Contemporary American Theater Festival in Sheperdstown, West Virginia next month. And I would love to kick off the conversation by one, saying thank you for speaking with us, and two, to tell us a little bit about the distinction between an offering and a play and why that feels so important for this particular piece of art that you've created.
Thank you for thank you for that. I've always had to make that distinction in conversation. So to come into a space and that distinction and clarity is already embedded into the conversation means a lot. So thank you.
Of course.
For me, this piece is an offering because I think about what is happening within the work, right? I believe the work is offering softness to a community that hardly sees themselves reflected. I believe the work is offering representation. I believe the work is offering beauty, and I believe the work is offering healing and love, right? And so just reframing it from what we've been so used to hearing of a play, which is really beautiful, and so much imagination work happens within a play, right? And also within an offering, we still get to have imagination work, and we also get to experience a level of hopefully healing and beauty and softness and representation being offered to a community that seldom sees themselves reflected in the work and within this medium.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to hear in your words. I know what the play, or excuse me, the offering is about, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you the opportunity to say it in your own words, because I know it's a very personal experience, and I know, both through the lens of your mentor working with them, your own experience with having HIV. I just really, it's such a powerful subject matter, but it's also something that, and forgive me if the term is not correct, but I view this as also a way to destigmatize living with
Mhm.
HIV, and or to normalize the experience of just talking about things like this around our physical and mental health, and making sure that folks have the resources that they need, and also that there are safe spaces to talk about living with HIV, and other things around your sexual and physical and mental health. So that's what resonated with me about it. But I really would love to hear why this felt like such an important subject to tackle, and to hopefully destigmatize for audiences as well, that can view this as something that resonates with them.
Absolutely. Look, let me tell you something. You just hit every nail on the head. You like literally in the question are all of the answers, right? Like you talked about destigmatization, which is very important, right? Like knowing how heavily stigmatized HIV is, knowing how heavily stigmatized just so many identities are, right? So to be able to see a work this centers a community that is so heavily stigmatized, right? That is already a triumph within the offering. And also, as you talked about, being able to have work that is representational, right? Being able to have work that is communal, I think is incredibly important. So for me, when I think about this piece, yes, as a person living with HIV, who's been living with HIV since 2008, I seldom have seen myself reflected as a Black queer person in the world. So many times, all of the stories surrounding HIV and AIDS have always centered affluent, cisgendered, queer men, as if they were the only ones living with navigating HIV and AIDS, right? So, what does it look like for, again, a Black person? What does it look like for women living with HIV who are cis and who are trans, right? What does it look like for individuals who don't fit into this category that I just mentioned, living with HIV? Where are we in the conversation, right? And I think about so often, yes, we have things such as racism, poverty, redlining, lack of education, lack of adequate health care. All of these things factor into HIV infection rates and statistics. But what also I believe factors into that is a lack of representation. Because we don't see ourselves reflected, there is subconsciously we believe, oh, not only do our stories not matter, but our lives don't matter either, right? And what will happen to all that beauty is a recentering, is a recalibration, and is an offering to say, not only do your stories matter, but you matter in the fullness of yourself. So destigmatizing all of these things
Yeah.
and holding space for community and healing in what I hope is a very beautiful way.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I mean, congratulations. It's amazing work that needs to be done, and I hope it gets to come to DC because I feel like this is a conversation that I've had with a lot of artists, through different mediums in the past few years, and I really think that we could benefit from, from having you in the city at some point. So, um,
Because at the end of the day, we all want to be seen. Right? It
absolutely,
doesn't matter who we are, the space and identities we occupy in this world, we all want to be seen and we all want to know that we matter. Right. And
absolutely.
this work is hopefully doing that for a community that historically hasn't been seen
Yep.
and hasn't felt as if we mattered.
Yep, yep, absolutely. Well, before I dig back into some more things around the offerings, I wanted to ask, is there anything when you're presenting them next month where audiences can engage with you outside of the actual showtime? Will you have any post-show discussions or post-offering discussions or any other ways that the community can, speak with you one-on-one or kind of have that relatability factor that you were just speaking about of feeling connected?
Absolutely. So I believe performances start July 5th,
Okay.
and I will be here for the first previews. I'll be here for opening, and then I'll also be here the following weekend, which I believe is July 13th and July 14th. So I'll be here for those performances. And look, if you come up and see me, I am always wearing a hat. I have on this hat right now. The hats are very noticeable. So if you see somebody wearing a like, what kind of hat is that? That is probably me. And come on up and we can hold some space. We can chit chat. I do believe that there will be some talk backs and some conversations
That's
happening,
great.
and we're in conversations about those as well. And hopefully I'll be here for that. But then also I am the type of not just artist, but person, which is to say, it doesn't have to be a talk back for you to come up and speak to me or for me to speak to you. Again, if you see me posted up outside the theater, just come on over and let's hold some space. It doesn't have to be a huge conversation. It can just be a one-on-one to hold some space about the work or about whatever it may be. But yes, conversations are happening, talkbacks are happening, so we can really engage audience members as much as possible, not just with the work that's seen on stage, but also creating work off stage as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. How long has the hat, the fun hat, been your kind of signature look?
Oh, let me tell you, I live like literally, if I'm not wearing a hat, I feel naked, which is to say for a long time. It's so funny. My husband, I live in New York, and so my husband drove me down, and he was like, Danya, you would think you are really going off to college. Why do you have all of these boxes, all of these hats? I feel like I have a hat for every single day. So it's been a hot minute since I've been rocking the hats.
I love that. I love that.
Sure.
People ask me that a lot about my hair color, how long I've done fantasy color, but it's fun.
I
It's like,
live.
thank you. I mean, it's fun. It's like it's something every once in a while. I'm like, DC is small, and sometimes it'd be nice to go out and not run into somebody I know. But also, it's so much fun to be in that position
Life.
where people come up and talk to you, and you can create connections and
Your
reinforce
life.
others.
And yeah, I was actually thinking about this last week, just in terms of like not just like the hats, but just like the clothes that I wear, how I like adorn myself. It's self-care.
Yeah.
It's actual self-care. And for me, an outfit can influence my mood. An outfit can reflect and display my mood as well. So it's all a part of the self-care, right? How am I feeling right now? Let the hat reflect it, let the wardrobe reflect it, and let's step out into this world and get and give some life.
I love that. I'm gonna use that. People ask me a lot about how I choose self care, and I always say I don't. I'm not good at. I didn't get like a sourdough starter kit during COVID, or start training for a marathon or whatever. I'm
Yes,
like, I don't know. I kept
yes,
working, and
same.
but that's a great point. I like that reframe. This for that I can say that my self expression is self care. Through color
Absolutely.
palettes and clothing. So I
Absolutely.
love that.
And I'm
That's a
looking
great
for
way to
it.
look at it. Yeah. So back to the offerings. Tell me, how long have you been working on this project? How long was the research, and reviewing so many memoirs and essays, and I know that like, must a ton of research and time went into it. So how long were you working on this?
I would say consciously, the offering has been just like within myself. Maybe I got the first inkling of it in 2017, and it was just a thought. I may have like wrote the idea in the notes app of my phone. I left it alone. 2019, I was in performances for another show of mine, and that show chronicled, it was more of a autobiographical piece that chronicled the first 10 years of my experience of living with HIV. And I remember being in the audience, just experiencing that work and saying, oh, it's so beautiful that I get to see my story reflected in this way on stage. I want to be able to hold space for community in a larger way. And I said, "Ah, remember that idea you had 2 years ago? I think you can start to calibrate that." And then this thing called COVID came. This thing happened called lockdown, and where it just forced all of us to be alone or just to be still in our homes. And I started working on the piece. I was fortunate enough to hold space with, I don't like to say interview, I like to say have conversations and hold space with so many Black same gender loving men who were either diagnosed with AIDS at the height of the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, or who lost lovers and friends, or a combination of both. And when I was on social media, I'm not anymore, but when I was on social media, I did a few posts saying, hey, I would love to speak with Black same gender loving men who were either diagnosed with AIDS, or who lost lovers and friends with AIDS during the height of the epidemic in the 80s. And so many men responded to me, I would love to talk. I would love to talk. I would love to talk. And I had, oh, maybe 2 to 3 dozen conversations in April and the beginning of May of lockdown. And every single person that I spoke with said, thank you. I've been waiting to share my story. Thank you. I felt so ignored. Thank you. And after those conversations, I just sat with it, allowed it to just like sit and marinate within me. And I started to write the piece. And I am a fast writer, but I was actually gagged at how fast I wrote the first draft of the offering. It took me about a week and a half. And this offering is mighty. It's 2 parts. So to write 2 parts in a week and a half, it's given, oh, I locked myself in the room and just wrote. And after writing that first draft, I put it down for a bit. And then I found so many books and anthologies and articles, and I read that to help deepen the work even more. So all that to say, starting in 2017 until now is when I've been working on the piece. So, yeah, what is that, about seven
Yeah,
years?
yeah,
Just
that's
about, yeah.
quite a labor of love.
It's been a process.
Yeah.
It's been a process. And I would be remiss not to mention my amazing director, Malika Oyeatman. I sent her one of the early drafts. I think it might have been the summer of 2020. And she's been attached to the project ever since. Every single reading we've had of the work, one-on-one sessions, she's been attached to the project every single second. And it's been really beautiful to work with such a strong director who's also such a close friend as well. And we've just been really chiseling away to get to the heart of the story, to tell the most beautiful and purest version of the offering that we can.
That's really amazing. I know working with friends can sometimes be challenging, especially in creative spaces, but it's really special when you can have a healthy, and good relationship where it just enhances the art. So I'm thrilled for you that you have that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoo, do I want to dig in so deep with my friend on this vulnerable and Herculean work? And we are in such simpatico that it made perfect sense. And we've been just like moving and grooving and like a state of harmony, and also like quite naturally having some challenges and like disagreements and different opinions on the
Mhm.
work. But we've always been able to center softness in the process, and remembering like, yes, we want the work to be well, but above all, we want for us to be well in the
Absolutely.
process. So always coming to that as the like focal point and the foundation of the creation.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big believer in if there's not friction in a relationship, no matter what kind of relationship it is, something's wrong. Nothing should ever be
Roots.
super easy and seamless all the time if you're really connected to someone.
Roots.
And
Absolutely.
so that's just, but you're right. It's how you manage that matters, right? And softness is important. So that's wonderful. My last question for you is about the fact that there are two. I know there's a two-part offering, and we are spanning 30 years in the life of a family or individuals in New York in the 80s all the way through current day or close to current day that are affected by AIDS and HIV. And I'd love to know a little bit about the juxtaposition and the importance of going from, the AIDS epidemic in the 80s to now, and why that felt important to, shape the narrative and the storyline around these two parts to the offering.
Yeah. It was really important to structure the work in a way that's in two parts because it really gives us time to, as you mentioned, follow a family, follow a community over the course of 30 years. Particularly, we're following a Black family over the course of 30 years and how HIV and AIDS has affected and impacted this family. So, in part one, which is set in the late 80s, we are with a couple and we learn how the virus, how the disease has impacted this couple. And as we kind of journey over the course of 30 years and we find ourselves in part two, we meet characters that are connected to the couple in part one, and we meet characters who are not connected at all. But through the space and through the sense of community and family, we see again how HIV and AIDS has impacted and has affected a Black community and a Black family over this time period.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. My very last question is just: is there anything we didn't cover that you'd like to share with Wildside's audience around why they should come check out not only your offering but the festival next month, and if they've never been to Shepherdstown or experienced the festival before?
Yeah, and so a few things are buzzing for me right now. One is coming to see the work because the work, though it is specific and holds space for a very specific community, it is for everyone, right? We all have family, whether blood or whether chosen, right? And so being able to exist in the space of family, the work is for everyone to be able to also see themselves reflected. The work hopefully is saying that you are not alone, right? There are people out there who love you and who are there for you no matter what your identities are. So again, the work is for everyone to experience and to be able to hold space with. And also, I again live in the New York area, which is to say, it is buildings upon concrete upon concrete. So to be here with so much nature and trees, it has given me all the life that I need. So that is another good reason to come to Shepherdstown, to be one with nature, to just experience a bit of stillness, and with the experience of stillness, getting some really good ass art, being able to take in some really amazing stories, right? Like you don't get that all the time. So please come on out, experience some beautiful work, and just be still in the process.
That sounds amazing. I'm hoping I can make it up to meet you in person.
I'm into, I would love that.
And also, because you said you're not on social media, what's the best way for folks to follow anything you're doing? How do we stay in touch, or
And
see what you're up
that's
to
a really good
next?
question. And so I would say the best way to contact me or follow me It's through letswriteitout.com.
Okay.
And so I have a playwrights program and prize that I created for people living with HIV. And that actually consumes so much of my time. We're actually starting applications, opening up for year 5 in about a week and a half. But I am always like following that, tracking that, sending information through that. So letswriteitout.com is a really good way to kind of get in contact with me, to kind of check in with like what's going on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Monica. It is a pleasure. And I hope we get to hold some space next month.
Yeah, me too. It'll be a lot of fun. And you come down to DC and see us too.
Oh, work.
Wonderful. Thank you. Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.